everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today for the second time is Callum Stone. How's it going, Callum?
Hi mate, how's it going?
All good, man, personally, but in terms of being a United fan, it's pretty miserable at the moment, as you can probably tell.
No fault.
It's same for all of us. Another thoroughly miserable Saturday afternoon. United ruining most of our weekends this season. And I mean, this is probably the worst day yet. Being absolutely hammered at home to Bournemouth. Really could have been 6-0. It definitely should have been 4 because I don't believe that a goal like that should be ruled out. I mean, it was accidental handball. Um, yeah, it was just abject humiliation, really. And Bournemouth fairly deserved it. Like I say, I mean, they could have scored 5 or 6. I couldn't see United scoring at all in that game. And it's I mean, United are just such a yo-yo team at the moment. They go from a reaction to then down in tools again in the next match, and it's just the same. It's becoming a bit of a pattern now. I mean, they were embarrassing against Newcastle. Then they get up for the Chelsea game. They put in a decent performance, and then back to square one again against Bournemouth. The fact it was even worse than the Newcastle game. So, what was your thoughts on it then, Callum?
It was. It is weird. I mean, we're sixth in the league at the minute, and you'd think we were 15th. You know, it's quite strange, really. But the performances are the thing that are really bothering us fans, I think. And ultimately, I think with Bournemouth on Saturday, it was abysmal from start to finish. I mean, how you can go to, and I completely agree. I think that the accidental handball, like he got punished for having an arm. You know, the ball sort of ricocheted and went all over the place, and he jumped over the player, and it just ended up happening to hit an arm that was just in the wrong place. So arguably, it should definitely have been at least 4-0. The argument is there that it could have been 5 or 6 with some better chance conversion. But I kind of couldn't believe really what I was watching. Ultimately, like it was amazing how bad they were. And one thing that I want to reiterate and sort of reflect on from today was, I think it was McTominay in the press conference for the Bayern game, which I'm sure we'll cover later. He said that it's not like it used to be. It's not like it used to be in toxic dressing rooms, and we are trying our best and stuff. And it's like, well, there's two things that's wrong with that. Then either you are trying your best, and if that's your best, then that's not good enough for Man United. It's as simple as that. Or you're talking nonsense. You're not trying your best, and you should not be anywhere near a football club like Man United. That's the problem. I mean, if you're going to say that's your best, then your best isn't Man United level, and should never, and you shouldn't be in the squad. Why they're in the squad is obviously for other reasons, which we'll allude to later with when Jim Ratcliffe hopefully comes in as soon as. But if that's your best, then that's not good enough, and that will never take Man United back to where we should be, or rightfully I think we should be. Obviously, other teams wouldn't think that, but then you look at it in the other way. Whereas if they're not trying the best, then why are they down in tools and not trying the best every time they go out? I mean, if I was a footballer, I don't go out there to play for my manager. I go out there to play for my football club and my teammates and the fans. If I don't like the manager, then get a grip and just try hard for you and for your own personal pride and your club and the fans that you represent every week. So if you're sulking because I don't know Sancho's out or he's playing Anthony too much or you don't like his tactics, then go somewhere else because you shouldn't. You're not playing for the manager. You're playing for Man United, and the fact that we're on the cusp of a potential new sacking, another sacking because the players just can't be bothered, I think it's a complete detriment on the players, not the manager. I think the fact that they're representing themselves more so than the manager, it reflects so poorly on themselves than Eric Ten Hag, because Ten Hag will go away after Man United and he'll go somewhere else and probably be successful because he'll have an environment where he'll be able to thrive, something that he doesn't have at Man United. It was shocking from the start to the finish, and the fact that we went 1-0 down after 5 minutes and even then effectively capitulated. I didn't think we were terrible in the first half, but we're still nowhere near good enough. And the second half, once the second goal went in, we just gave up again, and then they went and scored a third, and then arguably in my eyes, if the handball rule wasn't so ridiculous, they would have gone 4-0 up against a Bournemouth team who, arguably, if it wasn't for 3 terribly promoted teams, should be going down this season, and we're losing 3-4-0 at home at Old Trafford to him. It's it's disgraceful, and there is genuinely no other word for it.
We've been 3-0 down at Old Trafford 5 times this season, which is remarkable, really. Um, I think it was Scott Minto who said at the weekend that not once did he ever play for a manager. He either played for himself or he played for the fans. So I think there's a mixture. I don't think McTominay is being completely truthful, and maybe from his own experience he is. I think there's a mixture of players who are not good enough and players who are down in tools. And some very very poor signings from the manager, it must be said, and the keeper being one of them. There's at least one of those, maybe two of those goals that Bournemouth scored that I think we're being spoiled for 10 years with De Gea's reflexes. Onana's just swinging his arm over the ball or under the ball and just completely missing it. And you can clearly see that his reflexes are not as quick as De Gea, who's like a cat. Um, and he's been poor all around, really. Onana, he had an absolute shocker in Turkey, as we all know, and he had a few shockers earlier in the season too. He can't be on. Anthony's been a very poor signing, let's be honest. He might have had a couple of decent games there recently, but again, I think he was very poor at the weekend. And I was very, very annoyed at the fullbacks. They were awful. I mean, I've been a huge critic of Dallo for a long time. Regulon, we knew that he couldn't defend before he came to the club, and Dallo symbolised the selfishness of the players and how individualistic they are. You probably remember the chance where Dallo, rather than square it to Hoyland for an easy tap in, he went for the glory and hit the side netting. And I think Hoyland was very annoyed at him. And it's the it was a very very poor decision making. I think he was just looking for, and that was at 1-0, so that was crucial. Um, I think Maguire and Shaw. I think probably the first time that Shaw's had a poor game at centre half. He's been excellent in that position up until now. But what chance do they have when the fullbacks are not stopping the balls coming in? Yeah, and Amrabat very very disappointing again. And Martial, what on earth was he doing in the starting 11 after his performance at Newcastle? Everybody expected Hoyland to continue in the team, and for some bizarre reason, Marshall starts again. Can you get your head around that, Callum?
Do you know what? Firstly, going to the point on the signings, I feel sorry a little bit for Ten Hag with his signings because he's a coach. He's not a recruiter, or he's not a he's not a scout. I mean, also you can have a good eye for players, obviously, as a manager, but or a good coach, but he shouldn't be entrusted with the signings. Look at every other club in probably top football around the world now. The manager doesn't make the signings. They have a recruitment team and they have a sporting department that reflects on how he wants to play, and they go find him the players that can play like that. Yes, it's argued probably only 2 or 3 of his signings have worked. I think, but again, the Anthony thing, has Anthony been terrible or has he been bad by £86 million standards? If Man United listened to Eric Ten Hag in the July when he came and said, I want Anthony, and went and bought him for 40 million like he was there available for, would we be all screaming and shouting how terrible Anthony is now? Well, probably not, because we'd be judging him by the standards of 40 million quid, not 86 million. It was just throwing money and pissing money up the wall because Man United don't have a sporting department, and it's just, it's just terrible for Ten Hag, and you're now starting to see the problems, I think, around that. Martial, how do I say this without sounding really toxic? And I'm trying to say it in the most polite way possible, but his effort the past couple of games has been probably more so Newcastle and obviously Bournemouth. His effort was disgraceful and genuinely disgusting. Like, he stood still in the middle of the box. Like, he doesn't try to run. He doesn't try to make movement. He literally just stands there. And that, to me, is the epitome of bad attitude, bad work rate. I think it's shocking, to be honest. Rashford's having a complete off season. I think his attitude has been a little bit. I know we mentioned this. I think it was his cousin that died or something the other week, and he's had family issues. I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's it's obviously hard when side things happen, but that's when you need to come out of the team maybe because his performances haven't been good enough this season. It's simple as that. The new signings, Anthony, he doesn't do enough. I think he can be unfairly judged sometimes, but he definitely doesn't do enough. I think McTominay and the fact that he scored a few goals is completely blinding people to the fact that he offers absolutely nothing else. He doesn't create. He doesn't really do anything else. He doesn't show for the ball. He doesn't attempt too many forward passes. I'm terrified to see how we play at Anfield on Sunday. I think it is. And alluding to the fullback thing, I don't think Deleu's good enough for Man United. I think his performances last year may have warranted a new contract because there was nobody else to buy, because it was obvious that nobody was going to be bought by this current seniorship at United. But I don't think he's good enough. Look, I'm just an idiot on YouTube. I don't know what I'm talking about, but please disagree with me if people do think that, but I don't think that I should say. But I just don't think he's good enough for United. I think he's a solid Premier League player. I just think we need better. I think he needs to be moved on. Because that chance, people are slating Højlund at the minute because he's not scored in the Premier League. How the hell do you expect to score in the Premier League when nobody even tries to find you? Deleu running up on that right side and shooting when Højlund was completely free in the 6-yard box is just, I don't understand how a right back can look at that and go, yeah, I made the right decision. It was just appalling. It was stupid to do. And then you look and go, well, how many games has he played in the league now? 9, 10 or something. He's not scored. Well, I'm not surprised because who's he getting a chance off? He's having to feed off scraps and then try and do it all himself. But then you compare his work rate to Martial's the other day. I think Højlund came on and within the first minute he made a darting run into the box and then bodied a Bournemouth player because he needed the ball. I don't think Martial even attempted to do that once. I don't even think he tried to win a second ball once. It's not good enough. And these players are getting away with it week in, week out. And then you see the loving for the likes of Newcastle and Tottenham who've had all these injuries. Well, what about United? United have got all these injuries, and they've had a lack of sporting department who have allowed a new manager again to have players that just aren't good enough and clearly don't care enough. And that's the worst thing about it.
Yeah, Anthony, I think he works hard. Unlike Rashford and Martial, he works really hard. He can't fault them there, but he has scored 1 goal in the Premier League since last October, and he has 0 goals and 0 assists this season. Even a £40 million player, that wouldn't be good enough. So he's been very, very disappointing. But of course he's not the only one. And McTominay, yeah, that's a very valid point. He's our top goal scorer because he's very, very useful in the opposition's penalty area. But as a midfielder, he's non-existent, and he had another very, very, very poor game. I mean, he doesn't do anything very well in midfield. He doesn't protect the defense very well, as you said. Is very few forward passes. Yeah, and he does. I noticed even in the Newcastle game, he wasn't even winning headers, and he's 6'4".
Yeah, it's not, isn't it? Like it really. I have a slight soft spot for McTominay, and I think this is because, and overseas fans will probably, or far out overseas fans, I should say, or idiots on Twitter maybe, but I do have a soft spot for him because he came from the academy, and I think he's a local lad, and I'm from Old Trafford, from Manchester, so I do have that slight soft spot for him. But I think there's got to become a point where you just go, look, maybe it's best for you to go elsewhere because you're just not at United quality anymore, maybe, and he's been there in some big moments, I think, and he's won a couple of trophies for us, but has he won a couple? Has he just won one? I can't remember now, but it is time, I think, for some of these to just go, and some of these should have been shipped off a long time ago.
Yeah, I think Jesse Lingard outstayed his welcome, and he stayed a bit longer because he was an academy player. So On that, I want to get your thoughts on Rashford. Now, he seems to have a good season, then a bad season, and then a good season, and a bad season. Given the money that he's on, I really don't think he's worth that wage packet and that 5-year deal. Based on, I actually feared that this would happen when he got that contract, that he wouldn't be the same player that he was last season. So Rashford on this kind of form, assuming it doesn't improve dramatically, if PSG come in with a huge offer, would you take it, or would you consider taking it?
No, never.
Why?
Rashford. There's a reason why certain teams love Rashford, and there's a certain teams why Rashford is so revered by his professionals. He is clearly an incredible footballer, and I think the fact that so many players and so many fullbacks and so many world-class players and world-class clubs around the world find Rashford so devastating and so frightening is because Rashford is so good, and this is why it frustrates us fans so much more. So what we're seeing, because he is genuinely brilliant, and he's probably the rung below, or the rung below, or two rungs below your likes of Mbappe. But he would easily get into, like, there's a reason why he's been talked as Mbappe's replacement. There's reasons why Barcelona were looking at him. There's reasons why all these big clubs like him. There's reasons why he gets in the England team. There's reasons why he still plays for United, because he has that talent and that ability to literally just switch it on and change the game. The only issue we're finding is he's not doing it this season, and we don't understand why. His body language doesn't look right. His attitude probably doesn't look right. It looks like he's just got no confidence. And it's so frustrating because we know how good he can be. And that's where fans are asking, what the hell is wrong? Because we know how good you are. And I think some fans might be a little concerned that it's to do with the manager again. Some fans might be concerned that it's to do with Sancho potentially. I just think it's something to do with the fact that he's lost his confidence. And I think Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher alluded to it a little bit in their sort of show. But I think Carragher was right in a sense in terms of when you're a local lad, you kind of have to drag your team through it, and you have to kind of stand up. And Neville kind of came back out and said, well, if he's not got that personality, sometimes he can hide away that little bit more. I don't really know what it is with Rashford in that sense, but his campaigns and his ability to stand up for what's right and his principle and all that, I think he's shown he has got that personality to be able to do that. So my worry is there something else going on behind the scenes that make me think, is something wrong with Rashford, or is something wrong with it's just something wrong in general, because it is a genuine worry that we're seeing him to be in such poor form after seeing him in such good form only 9 months ago. It's not been that long ago. So what's changed? Was it, is it a falling out with the manager? Is it a confidence issue? Is it a personal life issue? I don't know, but he probably didn't cover himself in glory going to the nightclub in Manchester. I think, again, going back a few years, but Gary Neville again probably said it right. If you came out of a defeat, never mind a derby defeat, with such a poor performance, you'd probably make a better decision not to show your face in public in Manchester in a nightclub. You'd probably just do a private gathering. Now, I get it was probably long time planned and all that, but I still just think that could have been handled a little better as well. Look, it's not for me to tell him what to do, but I just think it could have been handled better. I think it was asking for trouble a little bit, that.
Yeah, I can accept people being out of form and being low in confidence for a while, but it's when people are not trying that's what really bothers me. And I think it was Jamie Carragher who compared the current version of Rashford to Martial. Um, Against Newcastle, both of them really, really annoyed me. We were like, we might as well have been playing with 9 men. So I don't mind Rashford not scoring goals, and as long as he's trying, but you've got to say that he's not giving us all at the moment, and there must be, maybe there's reasons for that we don't know about, but it's usually frustrating as a supporter.
Yeah, I think that's the issue that a lot of fans are finding, and myself included. Look, I love Rashford, and I've always said that, and I think what he's done off the pitch is genuinely incredible as well. And some footballers should look at him as an example, especially when you've got the likes of Joey Barton spouting his nonsense at the moment. But the work rate thing for me is alarming. You mentioned Newcastle. Newcastle probably stands out for me the most as well. Some of the tracking back was, I couldn't believe what I was watching, and I think you've got some people on Twitter who I really respect as well, who are really tactically sort of sound and know what they're talking about a lot more than I do. Certainly, even they were pointing it out, saying his tracking back and his work rate was just so below par. And for people that genuinely won't usually slate Rashford, myself included, I was a little bit ashamed of him. I thought it was really upsetting watching him play like that. And you can have personal issues and mental health problems, and all that, but not giving your all is never going to be accepted. And I think that was kind of a lot of fans' biggest bugbear. You can have personal issues off the pitch, and you can have whatever falling outs and stuff, but kind of when you put the shirt on and you play for Man United, you just have to kind of think, look, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to go and give my all. And if you don't feel like you can, then to me, you should be coming out as injured. You can have a physical injury and you can pull out. If you're not quite there mentally, then you need to speak up and say, look, I don't think I can give my all, because I'd rather somebody be on the pitch that can, whether that means we lose, but we've tried our best, or we try our hard and fight harder and potentially win. But I can never accept not trying hard enough, and I think that's my biggest issue at the moment. And I think I've never really thought that of Rashford, but this season, or past couple of games, I've certainly noticed it a lot more. But I think his work rate's not been good enough, and that concerns me more than anything.
Yeah, giving your all is the absolute minimum requirement that we expect as fans, but we've not been seeing that from all the players this season, that's for sure. So I'm just going to move on to Bruno Fernandes now, who got another yellow card for dissent, which means he is ruled out of the game at Anfield. And once again, there's been chat amongst pundits and the media about him being captain on the football club. He would have known that he was a yellow away from suspension at Anfield going into that game, and yet he lost the plot again and was arguing with referees, and they weren't to blame why we were so bad, why we were getting thumped by Bournemouth. But he's got himself a silly yellow card, and he's out of the Anfield game. What was your thoughts on that then, Colin?
I was really frustrated by that, because the thing is, you can kind of I don't mind arguing with the referee. I ain't got a problem pleading. Now, we used to have our greatest ever captain used to do that all the time, and it used to help us. I haven't got a problem with him arguing with the referee, and it annoys me when people shout at him saying, "Oh, for flailing his arms and doing all that," because he's arguing for the referee, because I feel like he's trying to get something for the team. I don't have a problem with that. I think when you're 3-0 down against fucking Bournemouth at Old Trafford and you're needlessly arguing with the referee, come on, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, just 3-0 down with 5 minutes left, and you're screaming at the referee for, like, what good's that got to do? I get this frustration and anger, and I get it how so he cares, but use your frigging brain, man. For goodness sake, like, playing Liverpool at Anfield next week, you're our captain. You need to be available for that. And I've never had issues with his availability before. I think he's missed one game for Man United, and I think that was, did he have a cold or something? Like, he's missed one game, but a little bit more discipline should have been shown there, especially with the next game. Like I said before, I'm very worried about what's going to happen next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if we went 1-1-0, to be honest. But I think a little bit more discipline was needed from him there. I get he can show his frustration, but he needed to use his head a little bit, unfortunately, and he didn't.
Yeah, we were 3-0 down when he was booked on 84 minutes, so it was absolutely pointless arguing with the referee at that point. And I mean, the Bournemouth game was lost at that point. He needed to been thinking about his availability for the next match, but he had also lost his head again. I think he actually lost his head at Anfield last season. Probably should have been sent off in that game.
Oh,
To
yes, because we
me,
were 7-0 down. I mean, like, honestly, that was his, I don't even want to talk about that, but he lost his head then, and it's like, when United seem to get battered, he seems to do that, and I think it sometimes comes across as he's trying to fight for the shirt. I sometimes think it's just a little bit silly. I really love it when he gets stuck in, but I think it can come across in the wrong way. Like, we want you to do that when it's 0-0 and you're trying to fight for a win, or fight for points. Not when we're 3-0 down. Like, it just doesn't make sense sometimes.
yeah, I think in the game at Anfield last season, he actually pursed the linesman and was lucky not to get a ban for that, because normally that would be the policy. But not. Uh, yeah, so he's out of this game now. He won't be playing in that one. That game to me, like you've alluded to already, I think it's a write-off. It could be any score. If the, I can see United conceding within 5 minutes, then they concede another one after about 10 minutes, and then the floodgates will open. Ten Hag's away record against the, I know they keep saying top nine because they beat Fulham last season when they were 10th. But the away record against the top nine since Ten Hag has come in has been abysmal, and it's not just the defeats; it's the manner of defeats. So 0 wins against the top nine, one draw, and that was at Tottenham last season. And there's been 7-0, 6-3, few 4-0s, and at Anfield it's been a massive struggle. I don't think we've won at Anfield since Van Gaal was in charge and Rooney got the winner in a 1-0 victory January 2016. I think that was the last time we won there. And the aggregate score of the last two visits there is 11-0. So, and the way we're playing at the moment, you can't see any other result than an absolute tonking, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that though after Brighton and Brentford, didn't we? I think at the start of last season, and then we went and beat them 2-1 at Old Trafford. So I think it's kind of doom and gloom at the minute. But this is my worry for Ten Hag. I don't believe we should sack him because we can't keep sacking managers and not actually addressing the problem, which is one, the ownership, and two, the lack of sporting department. Nothing's ever going to change without that. And the fact that we haven't got that is that it's then meant the managers have to do it all. Gone are the days of Ferguson. You know, we need to move on and we need to modernise and we need to have that sort of structure in place, which we still don't have. But I think our next 4 games are Bayern Munich tomorrow, I think. Then
Yes.
Sunday is Liverpool. Then it's West Ham. And then it's Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, as we know, are in unbelievable form. You know, people are talking about them winning the bleeding title. Bayern Munich obviously don't. You know, Bayern Munich might take the gas off because they're already through. So should United. United should already be through, considering the results that we've had, or nearly results we've had. Which again is a disgrace on the players. Really, really massive disgrace on them. Liverpool will be well up for it because they know Man United are there probably for the taking. Villa, they're just in form, so the confidence will be sky high. Now, I know Moyes is under pressure at the minute with West Ham. I don't quite understand why, because I think they're like 9th in the table or 10th in the table. So I don't really understand the thing around that, to be honest. But it's really 4 really tough games, like really, really tough games. And you could genuinely argue that Man United could come out of those 4 games with 0 points, obviously 3 in the league and 1 in the group stage of Champions League. You could genuinely argue that all 4 of those games, out of possible 12, we get 0 or 1 or 3. And how many times could you say in your lifetime that was good enough at Man United? It's not good enough. And I genuinely think I fear for that. That would mean I genuinely fear for Ten Hag. And I think if Jim Ratcliffe was to come on, if Jim Ratcliffe was to, come into control of whatever he's getting, I think that could be him going and enough's enough. I'm going to start it completely from scratch. And I think that could be the case, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was Rob Dawson, ESPN. He's one of the journalists that was banned last week. It was a one day ban. He said that it's going to get to the point where Ten Hag just has to be sacked. There's nothing else you can do. I mean, you're not going to sack 25 players, so something has to change, and that's what the first change will be. I think they would have liked to have got their sporting department in Ineos and then assess the manager at the end of the season. But if this really starts to spiral out of control, then they'll have no option other than to remove the manager. If they've got a sporting director in mind, and we know who the CEO is going to be, Jean-Claude Blanc. So if they've got a CEO, they've got a sporting director in mind, and they've got other positions in mind. Surely they've got a list of coaches as well, as a fallback plan in case they do have to move Ten Hag on.
Potentially, yeah, but I'd love to see them because I couldn't tell you anybody at the moment. I really don't know. I think if they were to do it, I think they'd have to spend quite a good amount of money on a coach already in a job. So
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who. I think my worry would be one of the most unprofessional players I've ever seen at United in Jadon Sancho comes back. That man deserves nowhere near Carrington again. Never mind Old Trafford.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve another chance, and he would let the next manager down as well. Sure, he's got form for saying that he's a scapegoat. He said the same thing at Dortmund as well. Gareth Southgate dropped him from the England team because he had slacked off in training. So he's got a reputation. So I certainly wouldn't be giving him a chance if I was the new manager. I would just move him on. And I don't think, I mean, uh, I don't know what the next manager style is going to be, but Ten Hag, for example, wants a front three um, who can press the opposition, and they did that very well against Chelsea. Sancho's never going to do that. He's not the type of player. He's more like a Mesut Ozil type player who just wants to stroll around and have the ball played to his feet. Um, yeah, I think if you mentioned those four games, even if we lost three of them, I think Ten Hag would be hanging on by a thread. It'd be interesting to see now. Will he still be there for that the Wigan game in the FA Cup? Let's see if Ten Hag makes it to that game. It'll be very interesting. I
I
think the
hope,
only
I hope he does, but
yeah, I think the one I think he's probably if this was Solskjaer, Mourinho, and Van Gaal, uh, and Moyes, um, they were all sacked when it was this bad. I think the only thing that is saving him is the fact that the Glazers are signing over the football department to somebody else who hasn't arrived yet, and the Glazers are not going to make that decision. And they're going to just hand it over to Radcliffe to make the decision. I think that's the only thing that's keeping Ten Hag in a job at the moment. Now he's not blameless. But you've alluded to the culture of the dressing room, the players down in tools, the lack of sporting department where he's had to make signings himself, and clearly he's not capable of doing that. And no other football club has that arrangement. I mean, they all have proper sporting departments. I mean, look at what Edu has done at Arsenal, what is it Dan Ashworth has done at Brighton and Newcastle, what Michael Edwards at Liverpool. I mean, we just haven't had anything like that at United. We've we all we did is promote John Murta, and I just don't think that he's qualified for the job. To be honest, we should be getting the best possible sporting director there is in Europe, and hopefully that will happen now when Radcliffe comes in. So just quickly, I'll finish off our chat about the Bournemouth game by doing the player ratings. So it's going to be horrendous. So Onana would be a three, as would Dallo. Um, Maguire and Shaw, whilst they made mistakes, I mean, they're just constantly under pressure because the midfield and the fullbacks are that bad. So I'll say five each. Regulon would be a three. McTominay, four. Amrabat, a four. Bruno, a four. um, Anthony, a four. Garnacho, I'll say a five. And Martial, uh, a two, and lucky to get a two. Um, Unfortunately, the manager, one of his worst days in charge of the club, so probably a 2 out of 10 for Ten Hag. And the substitutions, like, apart from Hoyland, the rest of them came on very late. How did he not make a sub at half time after that first half performance? It was absolutely brutal, and
I
he
mean
made
that
his fifth.
is one of the criticisms, though, isn't it? That we're seeing a lot of that his game management hasn't been brilliant. It's one thing I probably would say he could improve on. There's been some games where I thought, what are you doing? You keep. I think there was a game the other week. He took Hoyland off. I think he scored twice. It might have been the Champions League. He took Hoyland off. Did he take Garnacho off as well? I think. McTominay was just a passenger and he left him on. I think Anthony hadn't done much. He left him on. Yeah, there was a couple of decisions that I thought were quite strange. I think he took Amrabat off for Mainu when he should have probably left Amrabat on and brought Mainu on for somebody else to shore up the game a little bit more. But yeah, some decisions have been slightly strange. I'll be honest.
Yeah, and it always frustrates me that he always finds a place for Dallo in the team, even if Wan-Bissaka plays, then Dallo plays at left back. I mean, one of the most confusing things I've seen recently is that he wants to have a left-footed player at left centre back, so he plays Shaw there, but then he plays the right-footed Dallo at left back. So completely contradicting yourself there if you're looking for balance. So I just don't understand what he's doing, and yeah, and that's been a constant theme. the substitutions and the team selections, and tactically at times he's looked very poor as well. And the Newcastle game, keep coming back to that game. There was another example of that. Yeah, and he just never changes it up. It's always 4-3-3 or whatever, or if you like 4-2-3-1. Like, for example, at Anfield under Ferguson and Mourinho, we would get results at Anfield by going there and playing a 4-5-1, making it difficult, playing the low block, and then getting goals on the counter or from a set piece and winning 1-0. I mean, how many of our wins at Anfield have been 1-0 over the years? But Ten Hag plays this almost the same way in every game. And you, if we play 4-3, if we play this formation on Sunday, they're just going to pass right through us and create chance after chance. Was it in a space of 5 games there we had conceded 92 shots on our goal? That's just absolutely alarming, to be honest with you. And yeah, Ten Hag, I mean, his choice of goalkeeper is hugely questionable. Just, I'm actually surprised at just how bad that he's been. I thought he's got to the Champions League final. He must be, he must be decent, and he looked good in that final. But he's really looked appalling at United. Even, you know, basic attributes of a goalkeeper look to be missing from his game. And the shot stopping is just non-existent at times. And even what he was brought, we all thought we were going to get this goalkeeper who's going to great with his feet. We haven't really seen any of that. I mean, now the tactic from Ten Hag is to let one of the centre backs to take the goal kick to Onana. He takes a touch and then he launches it into the opposition half. I don't see how you're benefiting from having a goalkeeper who's good with his feet there. Just so many things are confusing me at the moment. Yeah, Ten Hag. Uh, yeah, there's definitely things that we have to criticize about the manager, even though he's not being helped by the mess that the club is in. I know Gary Neville was saying there, of course, it's the Glazers' fault, and we all accept that. They're the root of the problem, but Ten Hag is not blameless. And I think whenever the clear out happens, as we hope, when Radcliffe comes in, I think Ten Hag will be shifted as well, because as the new era dawns, he's going to be associated with the old era. He's going to like guilty by association, if you like. So I think they'll probably and new owners or new shareholders always bring in their own man in the dugout, don't they? I mean, I can't think of an example where a new owner hasn't done that.
No, I know, but and I think that the old era thing I can half get, but I think look at what he did at Ajax with the right structure. I think if you were to have a right structure, I think surely it'd be only fair to give him the chance under that proper structure with the right. You know, if he was to go to a sporting structure and say, look, this is how I want to play, this is what I'm going to do, and you can see clear signs of it, and they go, right, okay, leave it with us. Let us get the right coaches in. Let us get the right players in. Let's genuinely, because a rebuild doesn't take 18 months, and a rebuild will take a hell of a lot longer than the usual 18 months to 3 years that it's touted, when you literally haven't got the resources to be able to do it. And United haven't got those resources, and that's the problem. And then I think it'd be unfair to sack him without giving him the chance to work under this new structure, because there's the evidence there to show that he can operate and thrive in the structure, in a good structure. So, you know, where you can question his game management and you can question some decisions he's made, I'd argue Onana was a very good signing. I don't see the issue with Onana. I think he's made some questionable mistakes in the Champions League. However, 9 months ago, he was the best goalkeeper in the Champions League. So I think the pressure of playing at United might have got to him. I don't know. Onana certainly needs to book his ideas up, but he needs longer. You need to give him longer. You know, De Gea was shocking at the start of his United career and obviously ended up thriving and being a very good goalkeeper for many years. Arguably stayed too long in my eyes, but you know, he was a very good goalkeeper for very long. Onana is a very good goalkeeper, and I think if United played to his strength and Ten Hag played to the way he wanted to, then Onana will be brilliant for us. You can't write him off after this amount of time, I don't think. And the problem is Onana's strengths aren't being played to because we keep hooving it long, but that's because we don't have a current defence that can take the ball on the half turn. We don't have a midfielder at the base of the midfield who can take the ball on the half turn, i.e. McTominay. So what do? We hoof it up because there's nothing else we can do. I don't think that's Onana's fault, and I don't. I'd argue that's because the players can't play the way that the manager wants to. It's just worrying that we're still here after all this time, and it still doesn't look like it's improved.
Yeah, but I would say that there's a lot of shots that have went into the back of the net that he should have saved, not just in the Champions League but in the
100%,
league as
yeah,
well.
100%. I'd argue we're out the Champions League because of Onana, to be honest. The Galatasaray game, he should have saved, I think, two of them. I think, was it Copenhagen that we lost? He should have saved a shot in there. I think he's
Mhm.
made a mistake in every Champions League game, and I think he himself will probably say how he's messed up, and he did do. To be fair, after a game, he took responsibility and came out. Something like De Gea never did, but um, yeah, there's no doubt he needs to improve. But and I think there was a little bit of consistency starting to come in, and then we played Galatasaray, and it just all crumbled down again. But um, Onana's a very good goalkeeper, and we've seen that. We've seen it last year and the season before, but there's no doubt that there's something. He's definitely not at his best at the moment, and I'm hoping he gets to it because at United you don't get long, um,
No.
especially in the modern day of social media and stuff like that. You just don't get long, and he needs to book it up as soon as possible. Same probably with the manager and a lot of the players.
Yeah, but like you say, there's four very, very difficult games coming up now, and they're under pressure to get results. And you know, I'm almost see if United won tomorrow night, I wouldn't really get that excited about it anymore because just expect them to go and lose the next game. Then they don't seem to have any consistency at all,
My
and
worry is my worry is we go and win, but one of Copenhagen or Galatasaray win. Because I think if one of
Mhm.
them win, they go to the second place and we go
Yeah.
to the bleeding Europa League. And honestly, I'd rather lose than go into the Europa League. I can't deal with them Thursday nights again. I can't deal with watching us play useless teams on Thursday nights for
Mm.
us to only probably get knocked out of it anyway, because we're not going to win that either. Because some of the teams that'll drop into the Europa League and some of the teams that are already in the Europa League are very good. So I can't be bothered with the Thursday night. I'd rather just not be in Europe. We've been and done the Europa League now, and I think I'd argue that Liverpool probably feel the same. I don't think Liverpool want to be in that competition. So,
No.
yeah, and no disrespect to it, but I just don't like it. We won it the other year. I was overjoyed when we won it. I'm not fussed about it now. Like, just I'm not bothered. Like, just get out. If you can't get into second, get out of Europe and go and play one game a week and train on the pitch. Although I did see a training video today of them not being able to string four passes together. So yeah,
Well, Bayern lost 5-1 at the weekend to Frankfurt. I think it was the first defeat of the season. Um, so this game I thought was going to be a dead rubber for Bayern, and it probably still is. But they'll not want to have back-to-back defeats. So and Tuchel says that Harry Kane's going to start this game. So it looks like just to restore some pride, they'll want to win this game. They're not going to be on the beach as we had hoped. So if Bayern actually turn up, then it's going to be another difficult night for United. And if Bayern win, then I suppose the consolation is that we finish bottom of the group and not be in the Europa League.
yeah.
And I share your thoughts. I'm bored of the Europa League now. It doesn't motivate me. I don't get excited about it. And I hate like Thursday Sundays. I hate that. I mean, the only thing that really spiced it up is if we played Liverpool again in the Europa League. I think under Van Gaal we played Liverpool in that competition, albeit we got absolutely stuffed. I think.
Yeah,
But
I think that yeah, the thing is we're buying as well is buying could go to the beaches and they'd probably still beat us anyway. So
yeah, yeah, their thirds would probably beat us at the moment.
yeah. I hate
Um,
being so negative about it, but it really is quite deflating at the moment, and it's not really nice. It's not nice to be this Alan Partridge shitty character that some other mongs like being like, but it's um it's not very nice. It's not a nice feeling at the minute.
we have a Bournemouth fan in the chat here. He says, "To be honest, I think we were just completely on it Saturday rather than United playing terribly." Well, with all due respect, I think for Bournemouth to win 3-0, it should have been 4-0 at Old Trafford. United have to be bad. I think United were as bad as they were good. I think that's a fair way to summarise it. Yeah, Solanke had a superb game for Bournemouth, as did a few others, and they took advantage of how poor we were. They scored after like a few minutes, and that was we were the architects of our own downfall there with the first goal as well, just giving it away and then not preventing the cross coming in, and then uh, Maguire didn't track the run of Solanke, and he was able to just flick it into the corner. So it was just a catalogue of errors there, really, and then
That's what I mean. It
as
was
you
just all like that, wasn't it? It was all just errors everywhere, wasn't it?
yeah, and then at the end of the game, it could have been any score because we were just giving the ball away in our own third at that point. Just the ball was just getting turned over all the time, and it's just a goal was being bombarded. It was just turned into complete farce. By the end of the game, so um, like we've just touched on, Bayern is going to be I think it's going to be more difficult than it would have been had they beaten Frankfurt. Now they're going to be slightly more motivated and want to finish the group on a high, even though they've already topped the group. But like I say, I mean, Bayern could play the reserves and still beat United. Um, but it wouldn't shock me if United turn up for this game now and they'll say, "Well, we told you there was going to be a reaction. We told you," just as they said after the win against Chelsea, and then the down tools again for the next game. And I'm just sick of that, to be honest with you. We expect better than that. Winning one game and then losing the next is not Manchester United form. I mean, that's relegation form, really. And if they won one, lost one, won one, lost one for the rest of the season, that would just, I mean, they'd probably finish 10th in the league, and they'd obviously be, um, the well, it looks like we're going to be knocked out of the Champions League, most likely. Um, yeah, it's very very deflating. And I just, like I said, if even if we win tomorrow, it doesn't excite me that much, because even if we won and went through to the next round, I just fully expect us to lose at Anfield then. And then if we win at West Ham, I think we'll get beat at home to Villa. There's just no consistency with this team. Whenever they're humiliated, then we get a reaction. But then nothing happens after that. They just go and lose the third match. Then it's just, I don't know. Something has to change drastically, and that's what we're about to come on to. I mean, supposedly it's this week that we're going to get an announcement on Radcliffe and Ineos, but we've been hearing that for a while now. Um, Apparently it's because the Glazers have been very forensic about the details of the handover, and that's what's causing the hold up. Um, so hopefully when he gets his feet underneath the table, then he can appoint a new chief executive and build a sporting department, which we think is going to be headed by someone like Paul Mitchell, and that sounds like a great appointment to me. And then Ten Hag will have to be assessed depending on the results of the next few games. If it gets really bad, then they'll have to make a change. At this point, I don't see Ten Hag being there at the end of the season. And then we need to start and getting rid of the bad apples in the dressing room. And if we have to pay them off, then so be it. I mean, we've seen other clubs like Arsenal and City in the past. Just had to simply just pay people off to get rid of them. I think a good thing about Martial is that he's out of contract. I think David Ornstein said today that he is going to be released in the summer if nobody buys him in January, which I don't expect. And then other players will just have to be moved on. And then hopefully someone like Mitchell, who will be the new sporting director, he'll have contacts all around the world. He'll be able to bring in, which United haven't done much of in recent years, is finding diamonds in the rough, and players that we haven't heard of, and get them before they go to Dortmund, and then they charge us about 100 million for players. That's what we need to do more of, and obviously, we need players with the right personality as well, and that's massive. Um, and I suppose the Arsenal model is something that we could look at. Look, they used to be a laughing stock as well. They weren't in the Champions League for about 6 or 7 years. Now all of a sudden they're title contenders last season, and they will be again this season. So with a bit of competence, you can turn it around at a big football club.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hate saying it, but you're probably right in terms of the learning from Arsenal. I mean, it was only a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago, that Arsenal were finishing eighth every season and then fifth. And they stuck with Arteta and shown faith in him and continued to do so. And they had a sporting team around him that I'll be honest, I don't know much about, but they seem to have worked. I mean, it obviously has. I mean, look at the performances that we're seeing from them. And it was all about patience. Their fans didn't have any either. Their fans didn't have patience online, certainly from what I was seeing from channels of theirs and big fan accounts of theirs as well online. Like they didn't have patience either. So ultimately, I think a lot of fans say they want a rebuild without even realizing what a rebuild actually means, and it means being patient and allowing mistakes to happen and allowing bad performances to happen. And obviously, he's kind of reaped the rewards a little bit for Arsenal. I mean, they're still yet to win the trophy, I suppose, but you can argue this season it's very likely that they will do. So United need to learn from that, and I think fans could do with learning from that as well. United had our day of 20, 30 years of winning everything. Football comes round in circles, and it'll be ours again one day, I hope, sooner rather than later. But be patient, I guess. It's not nice seeing what we're seeing, and I think that the biggest bugbear is the lack of work rate and effort and lack of what looks like care. But eventually these players won't be there anymore. Marshall won't be there after June. It's likely that some of these players that were close to being sold in the summer will probably go next summer. We'll just have to see. I think patience is probably the biggest thing that's happening, or hopefully should happen in the next probably 6 months.
Yeah, I can see probably McTominay being moved on at the end of the season as well. Many others who not Donny van der Beek, who's not even playing, I think he'll be moved on. Varane, I think he's fallen out with the manager. I think he'll be moved on as well. And Casemiro probably might go to Saudi Arabia too. And that'll be good if we can sell players to the Saudi Pro League. That'll give us decent transfer fees, I think, and will allow us to have more money in the kitty. Another thing that we should be aware of is that obviously for the last 18 years we've had no cash injection from the owners. Might we see that with Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos now? Over a 3-year cycle, owners are allowed to put in 105 million pounds of their own money, so that might boost our transfer budget if Jim decides to do that.
I'd
So that'll be
rather he didn't. I'd rather he didn't. I'd rather he put all that money into the infrastructure around the club. I'd rather he put that money into a top world class training facility. Because 20 years ago, Carrington was the best, and now it's the worst. And I'd rather that money go into places like that, because when some of these clubs got these cash injections, I suppose Aston Villa, Leicester, City to an extent, they spent this money on. Obviously, City are a bit of a different example because they've got a nation backing them, but they spent this money wisely in terms of infrastructure. When some of these clubs went down to the Championship, the money that they got from the Premier League, they invested in the stadium and the training facilities to allow players to come in and effectively improve because they had better facilities. United just stunk in a load of money again on players. Who's to say it works? We need to buy these. We need to buy these up and coming gems and improve them, and we can do that with better facilities, I think.
um, yeah. We heard a few weeks ago that Jim Radcliffe has set aside an initial 300 million to invest in the infrastructure at Manchester United. Now, he was careful to use the word initial because the first comments from the fans were that's not going to scratch the surface of the investment that's needed at the stadium and the training ground. So initially, I think he's going to put in 300 million to upgrade the stadium and the facilities. So let's hope that happens. Julio here says, "Evening, gents. Hope you're both doing really well this evening. We have a tough week, so strap in." Yeah, he's absolutely right about that. It could actually get worse. Now we think we're at rock bottom, but maybe we haven't hit rock bottom just yet. Yeah, so the only thing that's really giving us hope at the minute is this transfer of the football department to a new co-owner, and which we hope will be the majority owner, within the next couple of years. It's obviously just going to annoy some of the fans that the Glazers are just. They might be a silent partner now or a silent owner, but even them just being there, profiting from United, is going to annoy people.
They were silent owner anyway, weren't they? I mean, they never did anything.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's true. Um, but the fact that they're not even going to be running the sporting department, even with that, even them just knowing that they're there profiting, potentially still taking dividends, is going to really irk most of the fans. But we'll forget about it if the team becomes successful again. But that seems a long way off at the moment. So just just a couple of quick final questions for you. So who would your preference be for a sporting director if you have one?
Sporting director, is that the so the CEO would be John Claude Blanc, wouldn't it? Sporting
Yeah.
director, probably Paul Mitchell. I think he's got a really good track record. His sort of reputation and his record for players in the past speaks for itself. And it's been, there's been the rumor there for quite a little while from back when Ragnick was here. So I'd be very happy with him. Really happy with him coming in.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that too. There's been lots of exciting names mentioned, but he's definitely top of the list. So it is. I know a lot of fans don't want to give the some of the players what they want by sacking Ten Hag, but it almost looks a case of when now and not if. So if we, if it really spirals and we lose the next 4 games and he has to be let go, do you have any preferences? Like everybody, all the names mentioned are going to be a risk. Zidane's not coming. That's not happening, and even that would probably be a risk. Because he's never been outside of his comfort zone at Real Madrid. Um, is there anyone do you would like to take a risk on? If we did have to sack Ten Hag?
Honestly, excuse me language, but I haven't got a fucking clue. I have no idea. I genuinely don't know who we'd get. I don't know because I don't. Anybody could come. Pep Guardiola wouldn't thrive in this environment. Guardiola wouldn't do well. Klopp wouldn't. None of these managers would do well at Man United. They just wouldn't. And I'm almost certain of that because they do not have the resources behind them to help them. Coaches and managers now aren't like the coaches and managers of 25 years ago where Fergie ran the whole show, or you know, going further back when it was like Paisley and Shankly, and when it was Busby and and Jock Stein at Celtic and all that. They ran everything. They ran the football club from top to bottom. It doesn't work like that anymore, unfortunately. The modern game has moved on to a point where it needs all these extra departments and all these side things and everything else. And Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Ancelotti, Zidane, you could put anybody there, and none of them would do well. And sacking Ten Hag, I think, would just restart a cycle that we're never going to get out of. And I think sacking Ten Hag, I'd rather back Ten Hag and sell some of the players than allow that cycle to happen again because it can't continue.
Yeah, the only there's no point in sacking a manager, another manager under the Glazer ownership. The only thing that it's only worth doing if we're going to there's going to be a cull at the football club where absolutely everybody is going to be out the door, from the physio to the director of comms to you know to the manager and a lot of the players. Um, if the new owners want to bring in their own people, that's good, because it seems like they've got no they're unlike the Glazers, they're actually interested in football and having a successful football team. That's the way it appears, because they've invested in a lot of sports already and other football teams, and they've got Nice close to they've got Nice in a title race in France now. Um, so yeah, there's no point in sacking Ten Hag, no point in the Glazers sacking Ten Hag and bringing another manager under their regime, because it'll just be the same cycle, as you say. But it might be worthwhile under, and if any of us bring in their own coach, then I can see the logic in that, and that might be worthwhile. Um, now,
It'd have to be really bad for that to happen. I think, like really bad. Like, and even then, I think it'd say a lot more again about the players than again on the manager.
yeah, and also there's no point in getting rid of the manager unless a lot of the players go as well. The players who are not playing for him, there's no way they can stay and play under the next manager. I mean, a lot of the players who were there under Ranić, who Ranić was openly criticising the squad. Everybody remembers him saying that the United needed open heart surgery and they needed 10 new players and needed to sell a whole bunch of players. A lot of those players that he was probably talking about are still there. So this is why we run into these difficulties again. But also Ten Hag has contributed to that as well because some of his signings have been very questionable. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, you could half let him off, well, not let him off. I mean, you can definitely question and criticise, but arguably some of those signings don't happen with a proper footballing department behind him. I think, I think a proper footballing department, instead of just going, oh, okay, sign a check. Who spends £86 million on Anthony? I don't think anybody does. Obviously, I like Casemiro, but how many teams across the world would sign a 30-year-old Casemiro for 71 million quid? I don't think many teams do it. But again, we needed somebody in, and they just threw money at it again because there was nobody
well,
there to tell them not to.
I think what happened there was that Ten Hag was chasing Frankie de Jong all summer, who didn't want to leave Barcelona, and then at the last minute they had to go and pay the money for Casemiro because they needed somebody.
Again,
Um,
again, I think a footballing department go, look, we can't get Frankie de Jong, but here's a list of alternatives that we think are just as good,
yeah,
who can eventually either just as good now or will become just as good in the next year or two, who can help you play the way you want to play instead of Frankie de Jong. But they didn't have that. Instead, they just went, "Oh, we want him, right? We'll go after him and try and throw as much money." Don't forget, we had a deal agreed for Frankie de Jong. We actually had a deal agreed. We gave them the money. They wanted it. They were happy to sell, and Frankie de Jong said no. So, and they continue to chase. Eventually, usually, City do the same thing. But if somebody don't want to go, they have another. They not. If they have another target ready and available to go at, and then what they do is they go, "All right, well, we're not spending that much money. We're not being held to ransom. We'll go elsewhere." United don't do that. They wait and wait and wait and wait and go, "Oh crap, panic stations. Let's go get somebody else." Because
but,
Casemiro and Frankie De Jong aren't the same player either.
but what on earth were they doing? I mean, no, in this day and age, you know if a player wants to join you or not. You make a bid if he tells you that he's interested. Why are they bidding for a player who wasn't interested? That doesn't make sense. Why was the
Yeah.
manager chasing a player who didn't want to join him? That's
I,
baffling to me.
It makes me think maybe there was something behind the scenes where it was like Frankie de Jong did say, "Look, I'd be open to joining." I don't know that. That's something that makes me wonder if we didn't get the whole story, because surely to God, even United wouldn't be that stupid to do that, or Ten Hag wouldn't be that stupid to be the public face of something like that. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, I just think a lot of the issues could be solved, and if we have this sporting department and things still are happening, then maybe maybe the manager has lost the dressing room. And again, I think that reflects poorly on the players a lot more than the manager. I think the managers try to have a tough stance and try and uphold standards, and the players have let him down. I think that would show more poorly on them, but ultimately, the manager would have to take the grief and end up be the one to be sacked and gone.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a new sporting department and then probably a new manager to go along with that. He goes, yeah, he's not helping himself, for the reasons that we mentioned earlier, but also constantly picking Diogo Dalot and Anthony Martial instead of Wan-Bissaka and Hoyland is another reason why the results are so poor. His team selections and substitutions are so baffling.
Yeah,
And
I agree with
it
that.
is starting to spiral out of control now. I mean, being hammered at home to Bournemouth. I mean, that's when on Saturday was probably the first time where I thought it's over now. It's definitely over. It's a case of when. And with these difficult fixtures coming up, I don't think it's going to get any better. So I think that they eventually Radcliffe will have to make a change there. And when that happens, uh, like they're all going to be risks, but some of the names I consider, and like you say, we'll probably have to buy people out of the contracts. Would be the likes of Deserby, Unai Emery, um, or if you really wanted to go for a left field option, you might look at Kieran McKenna. He's doing wonderful things at Ipswich, and he might be a fantastic manager in the future. So Arsenal took a gamble on Arteta, so maybe McKenna might be worth taking a gamble on, but I am completely aware of the fact that Manchester United is a different beast to Ipswich, and it would be a huge gamble. But they all will be gambles. But I suppose if I had to choose one, it would probably be Unai Emery, to be honest. What he's done, the difference between him and Gerrard at Villa has been like night and day. He's got up with Villa in a title race, arguably. Um, and I'm sure he'd love to prove himself after not going very well at Arsenal. So yeah, my mind is already starting to wonder at who's going to come next after Ten Hag. But like both of us have said, there's no point without a proper screening department above the manager. That's the most crucial thing of all, and we
Yeah,
need to cull that dressing room.
yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. I have no idea who would get. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, just looking at the bookies list, it is not, it's not an enticing list. In years gone by, you kind of knew who the top contenders were going to be, but now, you know, eh, looking at the list, even some of the names on the list, like Brandon Rodgers and Michael Carrick and what do you call him, used to be manager of Chelsea and Brighton, uh, Graham Potter. You're like,
It's not great, is it?
he's not good enough. It's not great at all. So hopefully we can get a result against Bayern and the other game finishes a draw and we can stay in the Champions League. But I'm not very hopeful of both of those things happening. But everyone, please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your thoughts in down below. And Callum, it's been a pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure to come on, mate.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. And hopefully we'll have you on again in the new year when things are looking better for Manchester United.
Hopefully better, yeah. Whether they are or not is another question, I guess.
Yeah, it could be a few years before things are things are back to normal again. But I'll see you later.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Cheers.